I've been in chat forums lately on the internet, and there's a lot of people talking about spiritual path and time to waken up to your deeper self and spiritual self and all that sort of stuff. And when I ask people, what that means, quite often they're talking about, crystals and angels and spirit guides and all that sort of stuff. And what I want to say is that it's time for us to actually understand that spiritual is just like breathing, right? You can choose to consciously breathe, or you can breathe unconsciously. You have a spirit and you can be connected unconsciously, or you can choose to consciously connect it to it. What happens when you consciously breathe is a lot of freedom. So if you have anxiety or depression, or you're feeling, like having a really hard time, the conscious breath, so breathing deeply in an aware way and slowing your breath down, actually changes how you're feeling. And they've done research and they discovered that it actually changes your body chemistry. So the conscious breath is really powerful, right? And that was taught to us thousands of years ago by the Buddha, right? Thousands of years ago. And yet, and by many other many other traditions, I should say, spiritual traditions. And yet we are looking at it now because science is telling us, right? Which I think science has become a new religion. In fact, people don't question it enough. There's so many things that happen in science that are then disproven later. And people aren't actually looking at it saying, well, I need to really research whether I believe this finding or not. And how did this finding actually come about? But we don't do that. And so what I want to talk about is that spirituality is the new breath, basically, the new conscious breath, becoming aware that you have more than the surface, that you are more than your personality, that there is this innate intelligence that we are all interconnected with one another with, that it is this incredible ocean of awareness that is there for us to tap into. And when you meditate and you find that place of peace and you fill up on that awareness, your life becomes supercharged and you feel so much more powerful than you could ever imagine. People are looking for the spiritual path with things that are complicated, or looking from elsewhere, like looking from going to channelers, or I'm not saying that there isn't good information coming from channelers, but people are looking out to teachers, to Reiki, to crystals. Your power is within you. Your power is knowing yourself. And part of your knowing yourself is not by going and having a wonderful time and everything being easy. Most of the time, for most of us, what's stopping us from knowing ourselves is our fear. You have to dive into your fear. I don't mean sit in it and spiral in it. I mean look at it. I mean actually find out, who am I? What makes me tick? What am I frightened of? What's underneath that fear? And how can I get to love? How can I get to a point where I'm not frightened of love, and I love fiercely, and I can be in life and grab stuff even when life is hard, even when life is showing me that things are difficult, that I can still find the peace inside myself. I can still find power within myself. I can still find joy. I saw a documentary a couple of years ago about a man. It's called I think it was called The Fear of 13. And it's about a man on death row. And this guy goes to extraordinary lengths to prove his innocence. And finally he gets to a point where he just gives up. He's had enough, because he is innocent. This guy is innocent. And he'd been in jail for over 20 years, like a long time. He just gave up. He's wrote to the governor and said, just kill me. I've had enough, And anyway, he finally, after a long story, but I won't go into it, you can watch it, he gets proven to be innocent and is going to be released. But while they're waiting for it all to sort of go through, what happens is he gets stripped of everything, absolutely everything. They take all of the books that have given him peace. They take all of his clothes, except for the ones he's wearing. They just take everything out of the cell, because quite often people who have been incarcerated for long periods of time like that, especially when they're innocent, will try and kill themselves because they're just too overwhelmed. So they took everything from him, and he's sitting there and he's thinking, I've come so far and yet they've taken everything from me, everything. And he sits on his bed, and he said, in that moment where they take everything from me, I gave myself everything. And he went into meditation, and he took himself to the beach, and he took himself to all these places of joy, all these places of peace within himself, and gave himself the world. And that's available to all of us. Please search inside yourselves. Face the fear that's stopping you from being your power.